right, Hester, let's talk offensive line, defensive line as we continue our position previews for the 2021 season for LSU. Let's start with the offensive line, and I think the first question there is Dare Rosenthal, somebody that we expected to be at left tackle this season, no longer part of the team. He's transferred to Kentucky, and so there's a hole at left tackle. Other than that, you're pretty experienced across the line. You bring back just about everybody else from last season. You would have basically brought back your entire offensive line. Right. Now you've got a replacement to be found at left tackle. What's your general consensus on how that position and the whole line develops?
Well, I do agree that Dare is a loss. I don't think there's any question about that. But you also could say there was a lot of times over the last couple of years that someone's had to fill in for Dare. Dare's missed a lot of games. And so the core that you have coming back, that was the core that was out there for majority of the time. Ed Ingram's one of the most undervalued players in college football. I think Austin Deculus and how much experience he has is undervalued as well. You bring back Shanahan at center, and then you've really got a couple of options there at right guard, Hines, Bradford, and Bradford also could potentially kick out to left tackle. But Cam Wire, to me, was really an unknown last year whenever he had to play. I don't think any of us knew exactly how he was going to handle that. He went inside and outside, and I think he held his own. So you have someone who has experience playing inside and outside that I thought did a really nice job a year ago. So I don't know who's going to take that position, but you have candidates to take that position that have played some football, that have experience. And so the offensive line is still a strength. And I mentioned earlier in the podcast, a lot of people were high on LSU because of what they had coming back. And almost everyone said, yes, they've got skill players. They've always had skill players. Where I'm impressed is on the offense and defensive line. That was really something they thought was a strength because not many times in college football can you return this much depth and experience on the offensive line. Austin Deculus is going to leave LSU, I think, starting or playing the most games than anybody's ever done before. So I like that group, and that group knows that the level of play has to go up even more so this year. And we're talking more in the running game than we are the pass protection part of it. So not only do you have these guys coming back, you've got three guys really that were key contributors to the national championship team. I mean, Ed Ingram, Chasen Hines had to play going all the way back to 2018 against Georgia, right? The Auburn game where he has to play, and I don't think, he knew he was going to have to play in that contest, and we've spoke on Deculus. So not all experience is always good experience coming back, but this is a group that has championship moments, and you're coming back, and they're a really tight-knit unit as well.
So do you think the comparisons to the 2019 line feel accurate in the sense that the 2018 line was a little bit of a hit-and-miss spot? They struggled at times. They were okay at times. But they came back as an experienced unit in 2019, and obviously all the offensive pieces came together. Certainly made their life easier, but then they're the best offensive line in the country, won the Joe Moore Award. This offensive line, it seems there's a similar feel in terms of like your centers back in Liam Shanahan. He's got a year under his belt. He graded out pretty well last season. You would think he'd, with a full season under his belt of SEC football, adjusting from where he was at Harvard. Now he's got his legs under him. You got Ed Ingram. You mentioned you got Deculus, guys that you know what you're going to get out of them. And then you've got some talented kind of swing guys that can play multiple spots. Does that comparison feel accurate? What are the similarities and differences?
No, I think it does, because there was times in 2018 that you could see that offensive line have some success. But look, they had their struggles as well. And they really worked on getting to be the Joe Moore Award for best offensive line, and that didn't happen by chance. I mean, that was a group that knew they had work to do, and I feel like talking with Austin Deculus at Media Day, they've kind of had the same things. Like, we've done some good things, but also the standards got to be higher. And now you're talking about bringing in a new offensive line coach as well, kind of in the middle of that. But that transition has seemed to be something that's worked out extremely easy for everybody involved because Brad Davis knows Louisiana. I mean, he's from Louisiana. I mean, he's from here, right? All of that, and that might sound like a small thing, but in recruiting and just fitting into the culture, we have a different culture here. That's fine. That's what makes us unique. He fits into all of that. So that seems to be a transition that's worked incredibly well for everybody involved. So I think the comparisons are really fair. This group has done a lot of work to be better. They have more in the tank. We hadn't even talked about like Doomerville and Dellinger and some of the young, talented offensive tackles that could, in camp surprise someone, and maybe they're going for a starting spot. So you have depth there. It's a position where you have experience. If it doesn't work out, that is on you not making those improvements because all the foundation's laid.
That was going to be my next question for you, because you guys talk to Coach O every week on Off the Bench. And I know y'all are always talking about every position battle. We'll talk about the defensive line in a second because I know you brought that up this week in your interview with him.
Yep.
But I wanted to talk about some of the names you mentioned. We know the established names: Liam Shanahan, Ed Ingram, Austin Deculus, even a guy like Chasen Hines. Like we know the guys who have started and played a lot.
Yep.
Of the who from that category of guys, the Anthony Bradfords, the Garrett Dellingers, the Thomas Perrys, Marlon Martinez, Charles Turner, Xavier Hill, Cardell Thomas, the guys that haven't played as much, but we remember them from the recruiting trail. They were brought in to make an impact. Any of those names stand out to you?
I think to me it has to be Anthony Bradford.
Okay.
Because if you go back and let's say, we're talking March of last year, Anthony Bradford in Coach O's mind was a starter. And for whatever reason, and there's things that we could discuss. I mean, I know weight was an issue for him, but he was considered a starter a year ago, right? And he is someone that if you talk to people in the building, he has done things the right way to try to be that starter that he was considered for Coach O a year ago before the season started. He has the frame that you want. He's as athletic as you'll find. This is a guy that has the skill set to be able to do it. Now, as we know, you got to put all that together and you got to do it on the field. But to me, Coach O loves mentioning him because of what he's shown him on the field. It's just got to be more consistent. And if that consistency comes, then you're talking about, in my opinion, a high-level SEC starter.
Yeah, it's I think you look back at 2019 and make that comparison again. That swing offensive lineman or that sixth offensive lineman is so important. And that year it was kind of Ed and Adrian McGee, and you thought maybe Ed would come back and take Adrian McGee's spot, but then Adrian McGee held onto his spot. But then you had ability there because guys go out for a snap or a series or a game or two, and you need people to step in. And I'm hoping I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. Maybe I'm biased because Ross worked here for so long in the market. But Garen Dellinger, I'm checking the website. The pronunciation guide's not up there.
It's one of those things, and we've had a couple of names that have happened this in LSU. I've heard Dellinger, and I thought the same thing. Am I too close to Ross here?
Yeah, I'm
or is
concerned.
it Dellinger? Because I've heard that as well.
Let's call him Delly. Let's call him Delly to be safe here. I've heard good things about Garrett. I've heard
first name him.
G. Delly.
That's what we are here.
I've heard good things about him from people in the building, both from a skill set standpoint as a guy that can play basically any spot across the offensive line, but also a personality standpoint, a character standpoint. And you know how big Coach O and Jack Marucci and that crew is on character and guys being able to come in and get things done. And he sort of fits that mold too. So excited to see how that shovels out on that side of the ball. I think that's going to be something to watch in camp.
One of the things I want to add about our guy, Delly, so now I just call him our guy, you can call him Delly, nicknames here. He's here for a reason. He's not from Louisiana. He's not from a border state. I mean, he is from Michigan. So for him to end up down here, he had a passion to play football for LSU. There's a reason he is here. He could have stayed home in Big Ten country. He could have had a lot of success up there, but he wanted to come to LSU, and it means something maybe even a little bit more to him. So to go get a guy like that, to have him down here, there's a purpose, there's a reason for both parties involved. He's someone, same thing, I've heard great things about in the building, and I'll be a little biased. I don't mind getting my offensive lineman from the Midwest.
Yeah.
That's something that I don't hate. So
they breed him
I'm excited to see what he can do and how much he can grow within this first year.